Welcome back to my channel at The Film Optimist, everybody. I just got out of the theater watching the newest film, Venom The Last Dance. This is the third and final film for Tom Hardy. He has publicly said this is his last one. So I was really hoping that this movie was going to go out with a bang here. A lot of people did not like the first two Venom movies. I thought the first Venom was awesome. I had a blast with that. I remember seeing the critic scores before going into that, thinking it was going to be a train wreck, and I was in the audience side of things where I really enjoyed it at like an 87%, whereas like the critic score for it was like a 30. So I was excited going in to see the second one, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and I liked it, but I thought that not letting it be R-rated kind of hindered it a little bit and muddled the water. Like, it should have been rated R. You have a serial killer that inhabits a symbiote. That should have been a blood fest. So, like I said, I liked it, but I didn't love it because of that. Now, we come into the third one, where essentially this movie picks up right after the events of the last one, and Tom Hardy's character, Eddie Brock, is framed for something that happened at the end of that. I won't say it here in case you haven't seen it yet, but essentially he has to go on the run and flee to New York, traveling across the United States from San Francisco to New York with Venom in hopes of finding somebody that owes them a favor in New York that could clear his name. Along the way, he's hunted by not only the FBI, the police, special agents, but also a new form of symbiote monsters that are sent from none other than Null, one of Venom's big bad guys. Essentially, he is a god that is imprisoned by the symbiotes, and he needs something that Venom has that would unlock him from his prison so he can come kill all these symbiotes and take over the world, or at least destroy it. So at its heart, this is a buddy road trip adventure film where Eddie and Venom are on this road trip together trying to get from point A to point B and all the shenanigans they go through. Now, what did I think about this movie? On one hand, look, Eddie Brock, Tom Hardy, always brings his A-game for this franchise. He just delivers here. He knows what people want, and he commits. He commits to the goofiness, to the fact that he's playing not just Eddie Brock, but Venom, and they're so different, but the fact that it's played from both him, it's really impressive. He acts his ass off here, and it's hard not to walk away, if nothing else, enjoying his performance. And I'll say this, the first two acts of the film, I was on board with. This has a very early 90s superhero cheesiness to it, like a Saturday morning cartoon. They are so goofy and over the top in this film, just with the stuff that Venom does and the things that he says, and the performance that Tom Hardy gives. As good as it is, it's still corny, but purposely. I had a blast watching him in this film. The first and second act I also thought was really fun when it was a buddy road trip movie where they're just evading the law, getting into these little fights here and there, just trying to get from point A to point B. It was a fun, endearing movie with a little bit of heart that was missing from the first two films. There is a genuine love for one another between Venom and Eddie Brock here that I haven't seen before, and it definitely helped the movie cross the finish line for me. Where this movie fails is in its final act. I thought that it was such a disservice and very anticlimactic. Now, I know a lot of people are going to feel the opposite, because what I wanted was a final showdown with Venom and the big bad, or all the monsters chasing them. I wanted to see Venom just be Venom, be a badass, be this monster. But they create this MacGuffin from the beginning of this film that prevents Venom from being Venom. It prevents him from fully embodying Eddie Brock and being in his true form, because when he does that, it gives away his location to all these monsters that are hunting them. So he has to kind of hide within Eddie for most of this film, and he only comes out in like little pieces here and there, but it's not like all of him. It's like his hand over Eddie's, or like his face will come out of Eddie's chest to like talk to him, but you never really spend a lot of time with just Venom. And that would have been fine if at the end, he's like, all right, back's against the wall right now, bunch of people's lives are at stake, we just gotta do the right thing and join the fight. But they don't do that. Instead, they give a bunch of other people symbiotes and let those other symbiotes kind of have the final fight showdown, while Eddie is just kind of running. Eddie and Venom are just running away and trying to lure monsters, and he never gets in the final fight and has like that badass moment. Whereas in like, it's the same reason I didn't like Iron Man 3. I get it. I get that Tony Stark is Iron Man, but I want to see the suit. I don't care about seeing Robert Downey Jr. I love Robert Downey Jr., but I show up to a superhero movie for the superhero part of it. It was one of the big reasons why I also didn't like The Dark Knight Rises that much, because I'm going to see a movie about Batman, and then Batman's not in it until the final 15 minutes. Like, that was just so stupid. Now, in The Dark Knight Rises, they saved it at the end for me because they give Batman that final showdown where he beats Bane, and it was It was worth it for me in the end. Whereas in here, they really just dropped the ball. He doesn't have any cool standout moments in this film. Even when there are fight scenes in the first and second act of the film, it's not really Venom as much as it's Eddie Brock with a Venom hand. You just never get to see Venom be peak badass Venom. It's like the first movie, you got that. The second movie, you got that. He gets to fight Carnage at the end and have a badass moment. But then in this movie, they punk him, almost like they punked the Hulk in Avengers Endgame, like where you never get to see him do anything cool because he was just cowering like a little sissy since Infinity War, where he gets his ass kicked by Thanos. You just never get that final awesome epic moment with him, and I left the theater disappointed because of it. And the fact that this movie is Tom Hardy's last, at least so he says. I guess he could always come, maybe he meant like this is his last standalone movie, but he'll be in ensemble movies like the Avengers, but that hasn't been addressed yet. So as it stands right now, without the potential knowledge of him showing up again, he went out on a whimper for me. And then to even further the nail in the coffin is just adding to this confusion of they're teasing Null. He is not the main bad guy here, but they are setting him up to be the Sonyverse's version of Thanos, I guess, where he's going to take on a team of people in a team-up movie, which I would assume would be the Sinister Six. But Morbius was terrible. Madam Web was terrible. We haven't seen Kraven yet, and even if it's good, Tom Hardy is gone as Venom. So all we're left with is Kraven and somebody else that has the symbiote that none of us give a shit about taking on Null. Like, it just doesn't make sense. They left this movie too open-ended. And back to what I was saying before, this movie is cheesy, yes. It is corny, yes. And it's okay when it's through the banter between Venom and Eddie Brock. But they do go over the top with some of the corniness here. There's a dance number with Venom in this that just felt so jumping the shark in terms of corniness. It just pulled me out and made me cringe, and there was a couple moments like that sprinkled throughout. But overall, look, Tom Hardy alone is enough reason to go see this movie. If you are a fan of the other two, I think you will at least find some things to enjoy the way that I did here. The action is good, and if you don't care about the very specific thing I mentioned where you don't get to see Venom be a badass and tear through bad guys towards the end of this film, then you might like it a lot better than I did, because you do get some really good action with other symbiotes, just not the headliner here. It's like going to see Batman and Robin's the only one kicking ass and Batman's just chilling in the car. It's just like, what are we doing? Anyway, walking away from this movie and having a chance to sit and think about it, I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 10. It's fine, it's mediocre. I know a lot of people hear that 5 and they're like, oh, you know, that's a failing score. My scores aren't like that. 5 is very in the middle. It's passable. It's not terrible. You know, a 1 is like atrocious. A 2 is really bad. 3 is like bad. 4 is, it's a little under mediocre. And then 5 is mid. It's a mid movie. This is a movie that I would wait to watch on streaming if nothing else. This is an airplane movie. It's definitely worth watching at least once if you're a fan of this franchise, but I'll never watch it again, which is such a shame because I really enjoyed the other two. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you excited for this movie? Have I given you a reason to go and see it, or have I given you a reason not to go and see it? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. I hope you have a great weekend, guys, and as always, I'll catch you next time.